council with the idea that the Highway 371 overpass project would be an ideal time to consider freshening up or updating our logo and slogan. At the conclusion of the meeting, during council comments, several council members kind of concurred with Mr. Schmidt's assessment, and so really looking for this to be the commencement of dialogue as to how the city wants to proceed, if it wants to proceed with a review of our logo and our slogan. That's quick in a nutshell, kind of the context is in that regard. So
I just got a couple of thoughts or questions. With the rebranding, I personally think it's a great idea. I think it's time. But what would it look like? Would it be everything all done at once? Would it be, because I know like the signs for the parks they're an investment, or would this be something that would be done in phases, or where does the money come from?
I think that's all part of the dialogue. I mean, in that context, obviously there is an investment that has been made within our infrastructure related to the existing logo, and with a change there would be that effect. Stationary to business cards, to our entrance signs, to our water towers, to our parks. Just for example, our city vehicles, all those would have to be part of that equation. And I shouldn't say equation, but discussion as to an implementation. If the council wanted to look at updating or establishing a new logo.
So if we go forward and have different businesses, what the title is, present their ideas or lay out their plan, would they then, in their plan, would be asked for them what they see as implementation priorities, or we decide what the implementation priorities are?
Well, in the context, I think this would be a city process. In the context in which how the council wants to proceed. If they want to engage public, have public engagement, and have it organically be part of the process, or if we were to hire a marketing company, a branding company, a consultant to come up with several ideas, and then we get feedback from the community, and within that, the context of the conversation will focus on priorities and how we would roll out and implement the new brand per se.
And the funding for that, where would that come from?
To be determined. We'd have to have that as part of the conversation as well.
Okay.
But primarily it would more than likely come out of the general operating levy.
I'm kind of curious, Mark, as our liaison, as the conversation progressed, was there highs and lows? People wanted extravagant stuff, people wanted nothing, something in between, or
As far as overall?
yeah, cost-wise and this.
Well, no, we didn't get into that yet. We got into setting up the vision statement. Different people then talked about what their ideas were, and what we heard from the MidVet people were that it's fairly inexpensive to cut precast panel liners with the CNC machine and get some relief in the concrete as they pour it. Stonework is a little more expensive. Some of the other types of reliefs are more expensive. Ask again for kind of a catalog, let's see some square footage and costs, so the most we got, we really didn't get from people, I want something from this, or I want this, or I want this. What we got was, your budget is basically what we did on the 271 Mississippi Bridge. So they were talking about the columns on the corners, city logo in there. Something slightly enhanced on the rail.
I think it's important to understand that the project is the stepping stone for entertaining the discussion. You know, in that context,
Let me rephrase my question then. What I was wondering is, are there people that want grandiose or the preponderance? Because I read all the comments, you know, during that whole scenario, and some were saying, we're gonna do it, let's do it right, let's, if you read between the lines, it was go big or go home kind of a deal, because I just wondered if that came out.
and I think that's getting,
Just a minute here.
I didn't read that, people.
Okay.
I think if anything, what I heard was, yeah, we want to make it look as nice as we can make it look. But the budget, I mean, I literally brought up the budget. And I keep bringing up the budget. because, yeah, at some point, we need, you know, if these extra things are gonna cost us money, again, we need to know where the money's coming from. We need to know how much we want to spend above the budget to do things like, if we want, for instance, if you drive down through the cities, you'll see a, you know, a railing that's not, you know, it might be wrought iron or something kind of special that has the city logo in it. You know, kind of like on the Paul Bunyan Bridge over Excelsior, where we've got the logo of Paul Bunyan up there. You know, if we want something like that, that could be an extra, you know, it could be that, and I don't know how they feel about it, but I was talking with someone and, you know, maybe if that's something we want to do, we create a space for it with a plate, and then we come back in and we do some cutout piece that's backlit or something that can go over it at a later date.
Then so what comes first? Do we need to decide if we're going to
and that's,
update, you know, our city logo?
and that's where I wanted to chime in. I think we're getting too involved with, the conversation is about the project and not the city image and branding. The resident who was here is, that, and brought this to our attention, is on that committee. What I've heard from the MnDOT staff is, just in general, you know, in regards to features, if we're gonna use our existing logo or another logo, it's just a placeholder in that context until we get towards the end of the design process, you know, at the end of the year, later this year. Because you can, as Councilmember Cross said, you can cut out an area where that logo is gonna go. And that's, they're looking at it at this point as the structural side of things. What do they need to be designed for? And Mr. Schmidt, in my opinion, was bringing it, we're going to be doing if cities proceeding with the 371 overpass and looking at beautification, is this the time to look at rebranding from a citywide perspective? The cost of the overpass or the city's participation in landscape beautification isn't going to be predicated on the logo. It's going to be predicated on what proposed improvements are either included in their budget or not included in their budget. And so I don't want that to be the focus of this conversation. The conversation is it's the reason why we're having the conversation, but it's not the sole reason for the conversation or the primary reason for the conversation. It's just the impetus on why we're discussing this.
And that'd be, I'll jump in on the kind of the reasoning here, not to be too harsh about our logo, but it was clearly created in a different era when the technology was different. And I think that's the real turning point of the conversation for me is if we're gonna spend money on the overpass and we're gonna do something above it, I think having a logo that matches 2026 and the future and looking at the motto as something that might be well worth considering a change, since I don't know that still matches what we want to portray as a city that is doing different things than it was doing back in the day. And to the, I guess I had brought some thoughts on process and things like that. One of the concerns being money, but I think now would be a wonderful time to engage in some sort of an efficient process that doesn't drag out logo and branding for an incredibly long period of time. Upgrade and update while staying within the theme. What Mr. Schmidt brought to the table is close enough that if everybody at the table here thought that was a great option, I feel like that's close enough to what we have and modernized enough that it wouldn't require a massive public engagement process to make a tweak like that. I think we are at a point where we could do a more public process and really kind of own the fact that this is a new city in a lot of ways. And I guess the changeover and the cost issue for me is more, if we do it piecemeal as trucks wear out, as we run out of letterhead, the cost is effectively nothing in terms of the change, because we're not saying, okay, let's throw away all the old letterhead and redo it. So it's just when the water tower needs to be repainted, the cost of the new logo is effectively whatever the cost of the current logo would be to replace. So I was thinking of it in terms of that, is not to try to turn this into a massively expensive, huge process. And we still could make this into a very public process, but my suggestion would lie more towards creating something like 3 professional logos and having the public vote on that, staying in the theme, unless we wanted to completely change. And I think what Mr. Schmidt brought to the table was staying in that kind of like, the concept of what we have isn't terrible. It's just, it's time for it to be refreshed and updated for the future. So I'll leave it at that for now.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with that too. As somebody, I just went through a rebranding 2 years ago, and it was about an 18-month process. And we burned through, it was mainly packaged, so it was labels. And we redesigned 3 brands to start. Those went through, and I just used up my old labels, phased that out. So I've been through that process, and the 18-month process, nobody blinked an eye. It was just, it's on the liquor store shelves. But and then it took me another year to update my tap tables, which I'm sure still aren't fully updated. So like the rebranding process, especially if something was in the same theme, like that drawing looked just like an updated version. It didn't look like a rebrand, it looked like a version 2.0 of the logo. So for something like that, if it isn't too far out of the perspective, really wouldn't need to be, okay, we need to switch everything over immediately. As long as they stay within the theme, you kind of have the logo. So at that point, I'm not sure I'm sold on the growing community anymore. I think that's kind of had its day, pretty well established now. If you want to name all the big box stores, we've got a Panera Bread coming in, so I guess we're established now. Or Chick-fil-A, whatever fast food restaurant. I do think that needs to be probably updated, but I guess I'm either plus or minus. And then with the overpass design in mind, I think it would be nice, but I don't think it's a deal breaker, because the overpass is gonna hopefully outlive the next logo as well. So, having that in mind where it can be not necessarily set in stone essentially, but or at least modified to some extent.
I like the idea of staying in the same theme. I mean, I don't know if you ever heard of the Cracker Barrel fiasco where they did a major logo show. It was a huge uproar. I want to avoid that.
Anybody else?
If there isn't more, I guess I would just say one other thought I had was to leverage that same committee, since it's there, to start with a more public-facing process with that committee. Maybe it's actually not as currently established, but we ask that same group if they would spend an extra couple of meetings on the side, diving a little deeper and bringing us back something in the theme, that we could then decide, okay, do we need to pay a marketing firm to take that a step further? Do we want to turn that into a larger, truly open public process? But I feel like with a little bit of structure behind this, we could make a decision, especially staying in theme by the end of 2026. And I guess the other thing I would say about this is, I think I would either completely eliminate the growing community or go down the path of something, you know, about welcoming to the Lakes country, welcoming to the Greater Lakes area, something like that. That might be more what the established community looks like compared to a growing community. I shared that motto, mentioned it with a member of the public, and the response was kind of like, well, that's pretty generic. I don't really know what that's supposed to mean. So I think it's kind of in that realm of, to me, I'd have to agree with that. Like, it doesn't set us off in any way that would draw people. I think of it in terms of our Visit Brainerd conversation, is this would be an opportunity even to work on that relationship and see what we can do here about the logo and branding that would help draw people to the city. So that's, I think, everything I had in terms of this conversation today.
Josh, you got anything to add?
I just want
It's not mandatory.
I just want Councilmember Tabbitt kind of offered a framework of a process, is having the committee create a subcommittee that would focus on presenting a few concepts for council review, and then we define a public process thereafter. Potentially at that time determine if we want to engage with a firm, or as you referenced, maybe visit Baxter Brainerd, and bring them into the wheel to kind of put things together, that kind of roll it out with the goal or objective of having something that, for council to vote on towards the end of this year. Is that, I'm just
I
trying
think
to
that's a
summarize that.
consensus.
That was kind of my off the cuff thing.
Everybody,
That's the consensus? Okay, thank you. We'll continue moving on, we'll bring it to the committee next Thursday, right? I think it's the next meeting, so. Mayor, the other item that is on the work session is predicated based on a conversation or a request to go over and have discussion regarding the development review process. CD Director Jody did kind of provide an outline of the current process. And again, it's an opportunity to have discussion.
I guess since I brought it up, I've talked with Brad, Josh about it, and they assured me that as they meet with projects and developers, that everyone's offered that opportunity to do what we used to do with the sketch plan review and bringing it to council and to planning commission ahead of time to get a feel, make sure it's something in line with, to get a read on whether it's something we want to move through. And as long as they know that and they've got the understanding that with or without that, the council can still look at a product and say no for whatever reason on a variance. I'm satisfied with the product process we currently have. front setbacks, those kinds of things. I think that was a good conversation I had with it, and I think that satisfied my curiosity as well as how we do things. I'm not sure anybody else has any feelings one way or another, but.
Well, when this came up, I had some deja vu, and it wasn't good about going back to where we were and how we got here in the first place. Because one of the things we were beat up about on a regular basis was all the steps everybody had to keep going through. We agreed with that, and so we tried to eliminate some steps or consolidate some so that the process could work faster. And the thought that was going through my mind is, it's not like we're going back to that, where everybody's gonna get their fingerprints on this second. And we're right back to what we worked hard, to not do. But what I'm hearing, I'm satisfied with what you're saying, that we're on the right direction there. And I think, staff has heard it now, so they know what our concerns would be, and they'll be extra sensitive to those questions, I guess. Looking at it, but. So I'm okay. Again, I've already stated what was my concern when it first came out, but others.
I guess I was not thinking about it in terms of the most recent variance situation when I was thinking through conversation points. So my notes are really around certainty, clarity, and efficiency. Just the more that early in the process it's extremely clear so that developers are not spending more time than necessary is huge to me. I do, looking at the variance situation, if there's any way that we can know earlier in the process to telegraph those things, I think that makes perfect sense. But yeah, I guess my big concern with committee meetings and process is that developments are usually on a clock with interest racking up by the day on large projects. So every minute that we can spend not having a piece of paper or a computer file sitting somewhere waiting for 40 hours of work time where it's only being touched for a couple hours or less, that's huge to me. I always have been. I guess I've probably mentioned this several times over the years, but just not a fan of having development have to wait for a 2-week waiting period that doesn't do any good in the process. It's simply the schedule at which we meet, or a month or a 6-week process because of the spacing of meetings. So as much as we can compress that and be efficient while still making the good decisions we're supposed to make, that's key to me.
I think information sharing to us early in the process, like you said, Mark, is key, so there aren't any surprises for us or the developers.
I think overall, if I could just paraphrase, please come, please develop a project, but do it within the rules. And it'll slide right through the committees, right? So I was, we've developed these rules and modified them, at least in the last 30 years that I know of. But when you want something that is not within the rules, then expect a delay, because it's not everything's negotiable, but not everything's gonna slide right through.
That's reasonable.
I would just only add that just in working with developers all day, every day, time is really critical to them, always. The sketch plan process is available to all of them. They do hear from us when asking for variances. There's risk with that. And different types of variances, they're not all created equal. In fact, none of them are created equal. They're all individual. They all stand on their own. So I think developers all understand that inherent risk. We certainly reinforce that. The sketch plan process there, where they can come forward and give those comments informally if they choose to do that. We've had people do it. But it's been few and far between where people take us up on that because it's extra time. They'd rather just keep going with their formal approval process. That's just I guess in a nutshell, what we see, meeting with developers. And we do spend an incredible amount of time with developers, before it gets to the commission level. We meet with developers, 1, 2, or many times, sometimes extending into years before they make that formal zoning application submittal, as they kind of complete their due diligence on costs and putting everything together before it gets turned in. So the time is definitely very critical to them. So.
And I would add just, in that context, those pre-meetings or meetings leading up to the submittal gives that good identification. Now, obviously, it's confidential. They haven't submitted anything for city review. And once that application is in, it is a very fast process. Efficiency, as Councilmember Tabbitt, to do it. Was it 3 days after the application? We've got it published in the newspaper. So, if it's a special use permit or variance or conditional use permit. So in that regard, it moves fast, and it's only 2 weeks from the time of the planning commission. What I took from our conversation with Councilmember Cross is that upfront communication, Community Development Director Cody and myself have been talking, as we send the notices to all affected property owners, do we send a copy of that to the council so that they know what's going on? So getting out ahead, per se, and letting you know, through the natural process, obviously, the last gate or check and balance of the project after it's been through Utilities Commission and the Planning Commission for the most part. They're providing you a recommendation, but not knowing the details of the request, we can provide that with making sure that you're included in those early notifications.
Okay, we all good?
I'm just gonna throw out a little
Yeah.
bit, just like a comment.
Sure.
As someone who operates a business that's usually on the fringe of what's written in the code, I will say, over the 14 years that I've been working with the city, it has gotten substantially better as far as the information that's provided up front and the process, the speed at which the process, things still take quite a long time, because if you're doing something that's not written in code, to your comment, like, I'm always doing something that's not in code, sort of trying to, it isn't defined or something.
You are the exception.
I'm the exception. I'm the pain for the city. But I will say that the process has gotten much better over the past, in my experience. It took me 18 months to get my first license for Jack Pine Brewery, from the first conversation to the final issuing of the license, which was completely unheard of at the time. But I went through a lot of struggles on that front, but it's gotten much better.
Good to hear. Thanks for sharing that. I'd like for a motion to adjourn the workshop.
So moved.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
With that, that's time to go right into the council meeting. We have Lux. Make it official. 7 o'clock and time to call the meeting to order. The roll call, they're all here. This time I'd ask you to rise or say the pledge to the flag with us, if you would.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, and welcome to the council meeting. Some changes here, Brad.
Yes, we have 2 additions to the agenda. These are very last minute. Approval of the issuance of low potency hemp edible registration for the period of April 22nd through December 31st, 2026, contingent upon submitting completed application materials. And then the second one is approval, and there's a list of businesses included in the RCA of those seeking that registration. And then the second one is approve the transfer of an off-sale, on-sale intoxicating combination and Sunday sale liquor license from 3 Cheers Hospitality LLC, doing business as by Adela Italian Kitchen to Three Cheers Hospitality LLC, doing business as Three Cheers. There is one just clarification, item 18 on the agenda. There's a word missing in the title. It is approve a contract not to exceed. The word not is not in the title of on the agenda, so I want to make sure that there is a cap.
Yeah, I don't think I heard the first one. Is there three?
The two.
I got two.
And then the third is just the notification.
Okay, we're good. All right. Next item on the agenda is public comments. If anybody has anything you'd like to address us about that's not on the agenda, we would entertain those comments at this time. Seeing none, we'll move forward then to the consent agenda. The following items are considered non-controversial by staff and are recommended to be read and passed in one motion. Any councilperson, staff, citizen, or meeting attendee can request one or more items be pulled from the consent agenda. Any item will be pulled and addressed immediately after the passage of the consent agenda. Otherwise, the following items will be passed in one motion. Number 1, approve the city council minutes from April 7th, 2026. Number 2, approve the payment of bills and finance report. Number 3, accept the Utilities Commission minutes from April 8th, 2026. Number 4, approve the appointment to the seasonal position of park attendant. Number 5, approve Baxter Imaging escrow agreement for inspection services and as-bills. Number 6, approve stormwater facilities maintenance agreement with access rights and covenants for Baxter Imaging LLC. Number 7, approve plans and specifications and authorize advertisement for bids for the 2026 microservicing project. Number 8, approve the BNSF invoice number 902-99809 in the amount of $65.06 for the 220 Trunk Highway 210 and Inglewood Drive Improvements Project, the city improvement number 4121. Number 9, approve Pratt's Affordable Excavating Inc. partial pay estimate number 9 in the amount of $29,661.35 for work completed on contract B related to the 2025 water supply improvements, wells 5 and 6, municipal project number 6011-45040. Number 10, approve the SEH design phase service contract in the not to exceed amount of $60,000 for the Elder Drive and Foley Road intersection improvements project. Number 11, approve the SEH design phase services contract in the not to exceed amount of $100,000 for the Foley Road and Fourthland Road / Isle Drive intersection improvements project. Number 12, approve the SEH engineering services contract in the not to exceed amount of $20,000 for the mercury minimization program. Number 13, appoint Randy Root to the building official position in grade 14, step 5 of the non-union employee schedule. Number 14, accept the 2026 water service saddle review report. Number 15, approve lift station number 18 reconstruction project plans and specifications and authorize advertisement for bids. Number 16, approve the Woodsith contract amendment number 1 in the not to exceed amount of $8,044 for the lift station 18 reconstruction project. Number 17, approve the Nelson Sanitation and Rental Inc. quote in the amount of $4,200 for the White Road sanitary infiltration repair. Number 18, approve the Woodsith proposal for professional engineering service in the not to exceed amount of $35,000 for the 2027 mill and overlay and full depth reclamation improvements roadway excavation evaluation. Number 19, accept Golden Electric quote in the amount of $10,440 for labor and equipment for installation of antennas for radio upgrades. Number 20, approve AE2S contract in a not to exceed amount of $34,429 for SCADA integration for lift station 27 and for radio telemetry upgrades at the East Water Tower site. Sorry about that. Number 21, approve temporary liquor license amendment to Jack Pine Brewery for 4 events to be held in 2026.
Please pull that item.
Number 22. 21. Yeah. Number 23, adopt resolution 2026-030. Approve approving setbacks variances for property located at 10130 Timber Ridge Drive. I missed 22. Number 22, accept planning and zoning commission minutes from April 14th, 2026. Thank you. 24, adopt ordinance 2026-003 and resolution 2026-029, approving the zoning ordinances amendments relating to commercial recreation, single-family R1 and multi-family R3 regulations. Number 5, approved purchase for easements of parcels 40110840, 40140740, and 40140739 for the 2026 County State Aid Highway 48 Trail Connections Project.
You got these?
Now we got 2 more. And one is the approval of the transfer of the on-sale license from 3 tiers to 3 tiers, I guess, for a motion.
And then we've got the.
Gonna do both.
Yeah, the little potency license, the second one.
Yeah, you added a vote to the consent.
Oh, okay,
Yep.
all right. Talking about the lower potency now?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay, animal registration for the period of April 22nd, 26th through December 31st and 26th.
I will,
Go ahead.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda, including those last 2.
Second. Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Both same sign, motion carries. Back to number 21.
Pull that 21, I will abstain from voting because that's me.
Motion to approve number 21.
Second.
I would like to add one thing, if after we vote for this, if I could ask a couple of questions of Mr. Sundberg after the vote.
Certainly.
All right.
So we have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, and 1 abstention. And we, 1 question.
Yeah, I was just wondering, we were talking about process earlier, if you had some opinion. It looked like the paperwork that you filled out was handwritten with a hand signature on it. And I'm wondering if there is a way that paperwork like that could be done through an online process that would make that more efficient.
It could be, it wasn't that big of a deal because I have a scanner on site and it's just scanning documents. If I didn't have a scanner on hand, because I'm thinking about we've got a number of food trucks that come to our place and having a paper application for them might be a little bit more difficult.
Yeah. Most, if not all of our applications are in electronic format PDF that are fill-in, so we can.
They can be done paperless, in essence, then? Okay, that was really the key, is I
And
just wanted to push that.
we'll verify it, and then, and if not, we'll make sure that they are in writable PDFs.
Excellent. That is all.
Okay, great. Council comments, Connie?
Just one, and I was visiting with council and mayor just before the meeting started. I was at the Baxter Dog Park on Clearwater on Sunday and reminded again what a great addition that Clearwater Park has been and will be for the city. There were a total of 10 dogs there playing with their humans, and most impressive I thought were that there were 3 preteen girls there and not one of them had their phone out. They were just all talking and laughing and playing, and there was a family that came from Aiken and a family from Pillager, and 4 of the humans and their dogs had walked down from the apartment. So I think that the engineers who selected that spot deserve a thank you, because that was a very good choice. That's all.
Thank you. Zach?
No comment tonight.
Patrick?
No comment.
Mark?
Need some more, watch out for motorcycles.
I just want to make a comment here. First of all, I don't want to cherry pick here at all, because all of our employees are busy and they do a great job and they go above and beyond. But I know for a fact that this has been a very, very trying, probably a couple of months for, specifically talking about Brad and Jeremy with this sales tax thing. They got an email Saturday morning that after it'd been down, that they've been going back and forth testifying in St. Paul. And after all that work, they got an email saying, well, it's not enough, we want some more. So they spent a good share of Saturday putting together a 3-page document to show where it's gonna go and what the track record has been with the use of that money in the past. Yeah, it's exhausting. They're going back down again out tomorrow. And so, again, not that it's their job. They understand that, and I understand it. And I always fear picking people out because everybody's busy and everybody's doing their jobs above and beyond too. But it has really been, the sales tax thing is so important to us, as you all know. Yeah, it's gotta happen. You have to do what they want. Yeah, so they've been very, very busy doing it. Anyway, I appreciate the efforts above and beyond that and it's not over. It's not over until it's over, and so I appreciate that. Okay, city administrator.
Well, appreciate the pat on the back. I do see it as part of our job and clarification. And if we did wait till Monday to spend the 3.5 hours to put it together, but you know, this is the opportunities as assigned, so we understand that and we accept it and do the work. But that being said, I do just really wanted to inform council, we do have 2 upcoming events that we typically have representation at. The first one is BLADAC annual meeting, which is on May 7th at 7 a.m. from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Will take place at the lodge at Brainerd Lakes, so the hotel just north of Jack Pine. In that regard, registration deadline is coming forth, so if you are interested in attending, please let Kelly or I know and we will get you registered. The other notice is that the early registration for the LMC conference in Rochester from June 24th to 26th ends here at the end next Friday. If you are interested and want to attend, please let Kelly or I know. We will get everyone registered. If you could do so by the end of the week on both of those, we greatly appreciate it. You can do that via email, text, or phone call. Or after this meeting, you say that you want to attend, let us know. That's all I have, Your Honor.
Okay, great. Nothing from the attorney?
We do have a closed session under Minnesota Statute 13D05, subdivision 3C to discuss real estate. The parcels in which we will be discussed are identified in the agenda.
Motion to close the open and open the closed.
Second.
Motion second. All